Stephanie Cawley. Stephanie Cawley is from southern New Jersey. Her favorite pizza toppings are mushrooms and olives. She has resorted to Googling icebreaker facts to construct this introduction. You haven't heard the funniest part yet. A well-designed icebreaker is able to force its way through ice up to 35 feet thick. And I really hope I never ever have to experience 35 feet of ice. She is not a well-designed icebreaker. No, she is something much better. She is a poet. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie Cawley.
I don't really have it. Sometimes I feel like last Speakeasy I was like, I have a theme, everything goes together, and this time my theme is like new poems and one old poem, so that's what it is. So the first poem is called The Bat. This wasn't for once a story about somebody dying. It was the first day of the year. The bat in the alley sounded like a downed electrical wire. I didn't want it to become a metaphor, but I was hungry for omens, the tight fists of the orchid's purple buds, a clot of starlight, ice crusted on the orange railing. In dreams, my father had taken to leaving me indecipherable letters, a map pleated like a book. I didn't want anymore to write such sad songs. One man told me I looked younger, another an older kind of calm. Mostly, I felt like water, a thin membrane holding me together, easy to dissolve. I wanted to keep the bat company if it was going to die. This had begun to feel like a kind of calling. Then you touched a branch to its feet and it clung there, a reflex. You lifted it so it hung from the black gate and it folded its wings the way, in the afternoons, the morning glories out back squeezed shut. Just last week, I remembered the needles I found stashed in the heater in my old apartment. The man's name written in Sharpie on a box cutter. I don't know how to explain, but I stopped being able to remember the smell of rain in Florida, that there was such a thing. A whole summer blotted out with clouds, and now winter and a bat in the alley like some kind of sign. It wasn't an emergency. I kept saying this. It wasn't, but my heart beat in protest. It's like a true story. My boyfriend Chris helped save this bat. Actually, I was just standing there like, it's gonna die, and he was like, we can help it. And then we helped it, and then we found out about the fact that maybe it had rabies, which didn't make it in the poem. My cousin, who's a doctor, was like, "Are you sure it didn't bite you?" And we were like, "Yes, for sure." So maybe we're not. I don't know, but we don't have rabies, so that's it. This next poem is an older poem. It's called Rose Quartz. You are not dead, but the opposite of dead is not flightless. I feel bad about all my apostrophes and want to speak in clipped syllables to my friends, to sleep on the black futon in the afternoon again, even as the flies gather. No, the flies literally gathered, freckled the windows, waiting, tap, tap, legs against the glass. Why am I telling you what you already know? Because sunlight is terrible and blue, and there are only so many kinds of fruit to like about summer. Your friend died, and I pretended to be her, touching an expensive white dress. I put on a coral pendant and remembered the poem you wrote about rich women and statement necklaces. I'm not trying to make a statement. I'm trying to enter a way of speaking that means out loud if intimate, lips ear and ear, or us on a bench, not looking at each other, but at the ragged topiary, rats the size of dachshunds. I have no theoretical positions to explore in this poem. I have no ideas about anything. One way to avoid an afternoon appointment is to pretend you are dead. You don't have to go to the meeting if your heart is stopped in your chest. You can lay down with a spoon in your mouth and practice not breathing. But I want you to know this isn't morbid, not this time. This is like a girl knocking a knife from your plate, then getting you a new one. I don't want to marry any afternoons, to get married to a color, even blue. I'm writing this poem in a basement food court, and it's not that teenagers in pink t-shirts are ineligible for poems, but that no one here is listening like you. I am homesick for your hair, friend, even if it needs cutting. All the bedrooms cost the same here and at home, but we wanted to go nowhere and or Wyoming. Wanting to zip up into space with no one noticing is not terrible exactly. We try to describe the baseline without comparison, but then a heart appears beating and someone begins to cry. In retrospect, the problem came from trying to listen to just one instrument at a time. I think you would like the way so much glistened, or how to look outside without noticing branches, that it was raining more than it wasn't. There is no way out of this poem because I want the poem to go on going like nothing. No simile or example, just us together pretending. This poem's called Blush. Actually, I just keep changing the title, but that's what it's called. Starts with, I guess, a dream. I changed the baby's diaper and it became a cat, wriggled away from the table. If I live to twice this age, I'll have outlived how to be not very beautiful. My therapist says to call anger feeling muddled, if that's easier. Not wanting to write poems about whatever, the stars, whiskey, what was lovely, under eye circles, black half moons. Wince at having to become something else now, unwanted. I walk around like a murky riverbed, a 6-foot sunflower and a dirty mattress. It wasn't the living forever, but the becoming so ugly it terrified that thrilled me. I was pretty sure I made a mistake, and the mistake fatal, though slow coming. I couldn't get anything to come out funny like it used to, or torn from newspapers. I admired a hand-dyed lace dress, but could never pull off a plum lip. In an essay, a woman said, "This is the bad place women start bad poems from, fashion, etc." How to get a line that accurately reflects the condition of unending inaccuracy. I loved the movie with the girl floating in a pool all day and then haunted. Sharp click of a high heel, pink clasp of a locket. A book inside a seashell, clamshell compact, powder pink. I don't understand what happens and how and why it hasn't happened yet. I thought it would feel one day real. I buy a pair of pink glasses. I buy a pale powder at the drugstore. I lay in bed all day, but nothing comes toward me. Okay, my last poem is also a poem that I workshopped yesterday. And it needs a new title, but it doesn't have one, so yeah. So it will remain with its temporary title, which is Everything Was Terrible and Wonderful All at Once. Dear leaf rot, dear black spot in the tomato's heart, little ice melt starlight, dear daughter, little cattail, little invasive species tipping the balance to too much salt. My heart is a shell around a sticky animal, a long oystery foot. The man who passed me grunted in my ear. I had been crying about the end of a book. And it was the shortest day, and the sun arced above, clouds a texture of pearled yarn, soft wool. Across the horizon, thin bands of peach light and opalescent blue. Some people live whole lives swathed in scents of artificial fruit, strawberry, lemon fizz. The girl in the terminal this morning headed to rehab. I cannot stop singing the glacial storms too slow to sing themselves, singing a shield against whistles and leers, a long sleepy column of sun. Whether a home here can never not be made of blood. I don't protest. I don't even grow my hair long. My sister needs a warm coat, the sun a room swept of dust, the sun a radiant plastic future, a black dog the size of a palm on the floor in this airport bathroom. All my conversations are imaginary with imaginary daughters who may or may not ever become. How to explain all that blood and longing and wind in a breathless rush? What will happen to the baskets and black yarn flecked with gold, fake diamonds and long mornings half asleep in the car, sour songs on the radio, the open window? What a constellation of bird calls, cat calls, yowls from the alley. And my sister next day tells us the man called her sexy and ugly in the same breath. Put a bag over that and lick it all over. I don't want that man in my poem. I don't want that man on the street. I scrub the city clean in the game of all women with extravagant muscles. It's not the end of the world in this poem, it's the beginning. Thank you.